This is the woodshed. I think it was about the fourth of the buildings which I built when we came here. Purpose designed as a woodshed, and most people who keep their logs under cover don't have them adequately ventilated. The whole of the east wall of this building is a timber building, and all the upright slats are approximately 1 centimetre apart, so the ventilation level is very satisfactory, because we keep our wood at least a year before using it, after it's been cut and split. That is the main entrance to it, and you can see probably the type of foundation here. Now this is a full foundation. That there is just a straightforward piece of galvanized scaffold pipe down into the ground about ½ metre, and there are 2 bolts going straight through from there to the other side. Very simple method, and for a building which is not going to be heavily weighted, this is a very satisfactory way of doing it. One of the big pluses is that you haven't got any concrete involved in there, and therefore the carbon dioxide used to do that job is extremely small. This is number 1 shed, and when we first came here nearly 10 years ago, I needed something put up quite quickly to house my tools. Obviously the tools of somebody in my position are very important, so this is mostly garden tools but suitable for other purposes. So we bought this shed and I erected it myself. It's relatively simple. The most important thing about wooden sheds is that they don't get a wet bottom, and that means you've got to stop any moisture coming up from the ground or any moisture coming down as rain from affecting the timbers that are holding the whole thing up. This is not connected to the ground. It's a relatively small shed and it's in a sheltered place, so it doesn't actually need to be effectively connected to the ground, but its weight once inside it is more than enough to hold everything in place. It's basically just a tool store. All the various things that I keep in there are what I would call tools and dry products. Certain amount of fertilizers. For instance, we buy in a certain amount of fish meal as a fertilizer, fish fertilizer, and but mainly it's seaweed. I used to buy fish, I don't do it now, I'm a vegan. So seaweed does a slightly better job, as it's got loads of different types of minerals in and will replace minerals and keep a good balance. So just quite simply a straightforward tool shed. This is what we call MI6. I know it's a little bit odd that I'm calling it number 3 and it's MI6. We call it that because it's an undercover area, and an undercover area is extremely useful. We use it virtually like a cold frame. So most of the plants, before planting out, they come here and they are in here for a week or 2. It's used as a cold frame, but also for growing stuff. Right in the background there's a large, effectively a large container on a table with drainage, and we're growing beetroot in there at the moment. But practically everything which is due for planting out comes into here as like a cold frame and spends a few days, sometimes a couple of weeks, depending on the time of the year, in here before being planted out. This shed here is where we store the miscanthus, which is what I use as firelighters. This is what I cut last February, and I'm starting to use it as a firelighter as soon as we start our fires in the autumn. That side of it is a full right the way back, and we keep electric mowers in here With sustainability in mind, we use electric mowers pretty well all the time because we can run them off the solar panels. So it doesn't cost us anything to do it, and there's no carbon dioxide involved. We have 1 or 2 battery ones and 1 or 2 straight off the mains for the ones near the buildings.